Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I am reviewing today another horror anthology movie called The Dark Tapes. Um, I'm a fan of horror anthology movies. As I've mentioned on previous reviews that I've done, these are movies that I grew up on, things like The Creep Show. Um, it, it, I just think it's a good platform to sell some short, creepy horror stories, and they're easy to watch. They don't hold your attention for too long, and when they're done properly, like VHS and Trick or Treat, things like that, they can be really, really good. So when a new one comes out, I like to check it out. Some of them you get disappointed with, and some of them you don't. Now this one is a little bit conflicting for me. There's good and there's bad here to be had. I think what we have here with the Dark Tapes is it's four tales. There's one that kind of bookends it and keeps popping up during it, and there's like three stories in between. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a bunch of scientists. There's three scientists. One of them's like a documentarian, and the other two are scientists, and they want to capture imagery of these otherworldly beings that they believe live in like a dimension that's just set aside from ours, and we can't see them because they're moving too fast and whatever. Um, Now, in this story that overrides it all, it is very hit and miss for me. I think what let it down initially was the first 20 minutes of this movie that leads into the first story. I thought there was such heavy exposition, especially from the scientists. They were sat down being interviewed and they were just explaining what they were doing, but it was like really science heavy, and it just completely took me out of the movie. And the acting as well was questionable at this point. So the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was seriously questioning my choice in watching this movie because it really, really was a very slow start. So that I said, the first part of it, you're introduced to these scientists and then telling you what they're going to do. Um, and then it leads into the next story, which is a story of a man and a woman who move into a new property, and um, they start experiencing paranormal activity. Um, Very much in the same way as Paranormal Activity, the movie. They bring in a team of ghost hunters, ghost investigators to check it out, figure it all out, and then um, see if they can capture the evidence and help them out. Um, Again, this story, for me, I don't think it was particularly bad, but I thought it was the weakest on show here. What I think really let this down again was the acting initially. The couple playing the two actors playing the married couple. Initially, it was just I thought it was very poor acting, and then at the end, when it were almost like they were asked to do some acting, it was fine. When they had to pretend that they were just doing like filming each other on a camcorder in their new house, it just seemed really a bit fake to me. But it picked up later on, and there was a nice twist at the end that I liked, I thought I appreciated, and that's when it really picked up for me, and I thought, right, okay, I get this now. The next story is it's about some like camera girls. Like the sexy camera girls that you can get online, and they want to do like this live sex show, and for the one that donates enough, they'll get a private show. Um, and this takes another strange twist by the end. I don't want to spoil it, but it goes very dark and very supernatural. But again, what let this film down initially was heavy exposition. There's a scene at the beginning of this story where one of the camera girls, is doing like a FaceTime with one of her friends, who she grew up with, a male friend, and she's saying she keeps having these blackouts and this, that, and the other, and it was an exposition that wasn't needed at all, really. They could have cut that out completely. Same as the beginning of the first story, they could have cut out that exposition. It wasn't needed. Just let us try and figure it out ourselves. But the story itself was okay. I didn't mind the second one at all. Um, and the third story was about these high school teenagers, I think, who just kind of graduated, and one of them suffers a traumatic event, and she then discovers that she's got like these telekinesis powers sort of thing. But there's also like something else, like she claims she's like being visited at night and abused and tortured by these creatures, and she wants to capture footage of this. And that's all I'm going to say on the stories. And then to finish it off, you get like the finishing arc from like the introduction story at the beginning. So the stories themselves are all okay. What I find hard to take with this is it's such a rip off of VHS. It's untrue. It really is a rip off of VHS. Now that doesn't necessarily make it a bad film, because I like VHS. I think they're very good. It just felt such a blatant rip off to me at times. It does borrow heavily from other horror stuff. You've got like the third story. It's very Carrie-ish, from the Stephen King Carrie. And I think what does let the film down is, like I said, this constant heavy exposition that they give. It's just not necessary. The acting at times, I think, for me, it blew hot and cold. Sometimes it was perfectly fine, and other times it stuck out like a sore thumb. It just didn't feel realistic to me. I think the found footage thing worked at times in this movie and then didn't work, because it was like genuine camera stuff, and then the next scene there wasn't. It was just like filmed as a normal movie would be. So it was a bit disjointed in that sense. Some of the acting, especially in the third story with like the teens, the one with the girl with the powers, the acting at times seemed very forced. Like they were trying too hard, but not distractingly so. So this is quite a hard one to judge, but the best thing that this movie has going for it is the scares. A couple of times I genuinely jumped out of my skin almost watching it. There were some very effective scares in this movie. And that is what saves this, because it is genuinely scary. It's one of the scariest anthologies, apart from VHS 1 2, which I thought some of those stories were really effective. This is one of the scariest anthology movies I've seen for quite a while. It is genuinely creepy and scary, and some of the makeup effects that they put on display here are very effective. So I think the positives do outweigh the negatives, but there are negatives there. If you go into this, be aware of them, and be aware of this poor start. The first 20 minutes, it is not very good at all, but it does really pick up after that. So yeah, I do recommend this as an anthology movie. It is genuinely frightening at times, and it is worth your time. So thanks very much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please support the channel and subscribe. Thanks for watching.